If you're a small business owner or in a small business doing marketing for a small business or otherwise, you often get asked, who is your ideal client or who is your target audience? And many of you may struggle with that question. You're not really sure how to answer that. That is what this video is all about. This video is about helping you figure out how do you define that target audience. And first, I just want to quickly start with why that's important. And being in marketing and branding, I can tell you that while we can service the whole world, it is not cost efficient to try to target the entire world. I mean, that really nobody has that amount of money to target the entire world. So since we have to be smart about our dollars, it would behoove us to think about who's the best person, the best kinds of people we can target for the different services and products we provide, and how do we best speak to them. So first, we begin with our target audience, defining who that is, and then we start talking about the messaging to that audience. But we've got to know that audience really well in order to speak to them in a way that's going to resonate, in a way that's going to make them move and buy. Okay? And so I tell people all the time, start first with your competition. If you are lost and don't know what to do, start there. Pick about 3 to 5 of your closest competitors and take some time. Take a day, pick a day and study them. And I know you don't have a lot of time as a small business. However, you will be far above a lot of people if you would just start there. And if you've done that before, but it's been a couple years, it's been a while since you've looked at it, go back, refresh yourself, because people and companies are ever changing and your competitive landscape is ever changing. So it's a good idea, keep tabs on your competition, go back, take a fresh look, okay? And when you're looking at your competitors, you're looking for a couple of things. You want to make sure that you're, for yourself, taking a look at how they're positioning themselves in the marketplace and how they're speaking to their customers. It should be really clear if they're doing a great job. It should be really clear who they're speaking to. So that will give you some clues about your own target audience if they're your true competitors. Take a look at their look and feel and their voice and their messaging and how all of that's coming together. Those are the things you want to pay attention to. And I'm a visual person, so for me, when I'm doing these exercises, I will dump a lot of that information, do screenshots of their website, do screenshots of their social media, pay attention to their following, who's engaging with them, all of that, and dump that into a PowerPoint or something. And that way you can go back and review them all at once. So start with competitive research. You want to look at your competitors and get a good feel for who are they speaking to. So that will, again, give you some clues about your own target audience and eventually the messaging that you're going to create for your audiences. All right, and then when you're thinking about your own target audience, there's a couple of things there. If you're in business already, you want to look at your current customer base. Look at your current customer base and look for similarities among your customers. What do they like? Who are they looking for? Think about your demographics, psychographics, which we'll get to. But what things do they have in common? And what are the needs that they are expressing? What were those needs that you provided because of your services and products or whatever it is that you have? So take a look at your current customer base if you have them. And then also take a moment and analyze your own products and services. So you also want to go back and think about every single product or service that you offer and do a list. Here's your product/service list, everything you provide. Next to that, list out features of those things. Those features come with benefits. You want to list those benefits out, who that's potentially serving, So once you start mapping all of that out, you can really connect the products and services that you have with the needs that you can fulfill of potential audience. So analyze your product and service. All right, and then we're going to get into very quickly demographics and psychographics, the basics. So you're looking at age, location, gender, income level, education level. You can look at their marital or family status. Are they married, single? Do they have kids? Their occupation, their ethnicity. All those things are important to know about each audience. So each audience will have a varied range in all of those demographics I just named. But take some time, think about what your audience looks like in terms of demographics. So then you've got your demographics down, you've been thinking about that. You want to turn your attention to psychographics now. This is the personality, the flavor, the lifestyle, the behaviors of your current audience. And ultimately what you're trying to get at when you're looking at psychographics, and that's things like personality, their attitude, their values, what do they value, their interests, all those things, their hobbies. Ultimately what you're trying to get down to is motivations. Motivations are so critical because those are the things that are going to tell us, why does a customer even want to buy from us in the first place? What is it that we have? What product or service do we offer that fulfills a need that they've got? And what is it about their own personality, their space in life, where they are, that your product or service can speak to? What is it about that, those psychographics, that can ultimately motivate a buyer to say, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I need. So that light bulb will go off if you're able to connect with those motivations, and psychographics are a part of determining what those motivations are. So all of this you want to start pulling together: your demographics, your psychographics, your competition, who they're speaking to, how they're speaking to them, and you're pulling all this together to ultimately create what is called so many things: a buyer profile, an avatar. You want to create a profile of sorts of each audience member, each audience type. And again, I've heard people make the mistake of saying you only have one ideal customer. That's not true. It's not true, and that's not true for many businesses, and it's not true the bigger you get as well. So you have several products and several offerings. They could potentially speak to a variety of people. However, you generally tend to have some basic core audiences that you would speak to ultimately. Again, audience types, you can have the ultimate decision maker who's ultimately buying the product, but there may be some influencers along the way who can help bring that product or service to that decision maker's attention in the first place. So there might be messaging, things that you're speaking to that would talk to the influencer as opposed to the ultimate decision maker. There will be people who will refer business to you. They may not be direct customers, but they will be people who will refer business. And that's an audience that you can speak to and help create a relationship with. So, it's just thinking through all the many different audiences that you have to speak to. And ultimately, what you're trying to drill down to is the messaging for each audience. Again, that's where defining these audiences in the beginning is so helpful. You have to define your audience first before you can know who to speak to. So again, talk through demographics, psychographics, competition. Once you've selected your target audience or audiences, there are a couple of questions you want to run yourself through. So one is, are there enough people who fit my criteria for that target audience? Are there enough people out there? Another question you want to ask yourself is, will my target actually really benefit from my product or service? So you've defined them, you think but will they actually really benefit for that? Are they going to see a need for it? You want to ask yourself, do I understand what drives my target to make decisions? Do I understand their motivations? Ultimately, remember, we're going back to motivations. Do I know that? Do I get it? Do I understand it? Can they afford my product or service? Because they can love it, but if you're asking them to spend $400, $500 on the spot for something, does your target audience have that? Or if you're asking them, if it's an organization, if you're asking them to spend $4,000 to $5,000 on a product or service, are they able to afford that if based on their budget? So can they afford your product or service? And then, can you reach them? with your message? Are they easily accessible? Think about the many different ranges, especially go back to your demographics. That's very important. So consider this is so classic, but your baby boomers versus your millennials, and everyone's like, oh, millennials, you're going to reach them on social media and blah, blah, blah. And then think about your baby boomers who may not be that mom, grandmom who's always on Facebook. They may not do social media whatsoever. I know many people like that. You cannot reach them by email. You cannot reach them by Facebook. I mean, you really, and they're not that old. They're in their 40s, 50s, and these are the people who potentially could buy your product or service potentially. So, you might have to go old school, traditional media for them. In order to reach them, it might be a telephone call. It might be, snail mail or whatever to reach those audiences. So can you reach them? And the other important thing is that you don't want to break down these audiences so far. There is a balance between being so specific and too broad and too general. You really want to try to find that nice medium, because what you don't want to do is be so niche and so specific that, this audience really can be served with the same message as this audience. If you're finding yourself ultimately when you're crafting your messaging, that messaging can serve both audiences at once or multiple audiences at once, then you've probably broken down your target audiences too far. So, you want it to the point where, right, this one definitely needs different messaging than this one, and this one definitely needs different messaging from your moms who are sitting at home. Targeting out your different audiences and then thinking through, which audience needs what message. As long as they can all get a specific message and it's very distinctly different from the next audience next to them, that's fine. But when you're starting to overlap so much and then the niches are so small that you're really saying the same thing to both, you're come back up, because you've drilled down too far. It is possible to drill down too far. So don't be too general, don't be too broad, because that's inefficient use of your dollars ultimately to try to target too broadly. But also don't be too niche. It's a little balance, okay? And like I said, this is something you will work through over time. The more you get to know your audiences, the better you'll be able to target them. And that just comes with time. So finally, how can we find out all this information about our audience? There's a lovely traditional way. You can Google it. So you can use other people's research and you can use your own research. So Google is great. Spend some time searching for blogs, looking for other research that is talking about your target audience. And then look at magazine articles and all this stuff that has information about your audience, that's speaking to your audience or has information about it. But try to find research on those audiences, how big they are, how much they spend, all that kind of thing. So you can start to get a feel for how big that market is, right? So there's that. And then also you want to look at your own research. Look at your own research that you can do, which is even better, because this is the one-on-one stuff that you're really, you can't prove it to yourself any better than doing your own research. So conduct your own survey. SurveyMonkey makes it so easy. They've got, pre-done templates. The questions have been vetted and they're all perfect for you. You can add in your own unique questions, but create your own survey your current customer base or who you think your customer base is. And you can also do focus groups. I love focus groups. Focus groups are great. Get that information one-on-one. There's nothing like hearing it live and in person. Get some feedback from your current audience and figure out, where do they hang out? What do they watch? What do they see? Where do they go? Where do they spend their time? Where are they online? What influences them? Because those are going to give you clues about where to spend your own marketing efforts. Okay? All right, and so that's it for today. Just some quick little tips on target audiences. Hope this was helpful for you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below. We'll be sure to answer every one. And again, I'm Andrea with the ADS Agency, a marketing and branding firm bringing you the very best in marketing and branding tips right here on YouTube. So Feel free to subscribe if you found this valuable. We'd love to have you back. And don't forget to click that little bell, little notifications bell. So once you click subscribe, you'll see a bell pop up. Click that, and then you'll always get our notifications every time one of these videos pops up. Also, what else do you want to hear? You know, I get questions all the time, so that's what these videos are based on, is questions people ask or common things I come across that I figure, well, let's do a video about that. You know, people want to know about it. So if there's something you want to hear about in the future, be happy to hear about that. All right. Cheers. Have a lovely week and see you next time.